I've tried from that active guide site. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from that, like I'm getting one error actually. I'm manually pushing that message in the YFS task queue table. Okay, that
That managed task API.
yeah, manage task API using that API,
Mm-hmm.
and the server is picking those messages like from that YFS task queue, but it is throwing one error actually,
Okay, what is the error?
like null pointer exception. It is saying.
Oh, is it? Okay, we will check that power. But you have used the same code what is present in the.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, we will check that.
Okay.
So yeah. And did you guys got chance to go through the sourcing thing, like the configurations and all, whatever we did yesterday?
Yes, but I have gone.
Okay, just a second. I'm opening the configurator. Let me know once you are able to see my screen.
I'm able to see now.
Yeah. So, second. Okay. So today we are going to see something called as scheduling rules, and what exactly scheduling rules are used for, and how to configure those scheduling rules we are going to check today. So, sourcing and scheduling go side by side. Uh, Whenever we are trying to process an order which is in created status, it has to go through sourcing and scheduling in order to move to the status scheduled status. So, what is meant by schedule? Like earlier, also we have discussed, but to reiterate, scheduling is nothing but allocating the inventory for an order. Like, for example, you have an order with one item one, you place the order for 10 quantity, and the inventory is available in multiple warehouses. Let us assume warehouse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all. Whenever the sourcing rule is being used, sourcing rule will help in identifying the right warehouse based on certain sourcing rule configuration or criteria, whichever we are mentioning. Like yesterday, we have seen the fulfillment type, sourcing classification, distribution group, and the sourcing rule configuration, whatever we have did. So, all these factors will decide the warehouse which can be used or which is the best suitable warehouse for that particular order to fulfill. So once a sourcing rule helps us in finding the best possible warehouse or ship node, the scheduling rules comes into the picture. So schedule transaction will try to follow these particular scheduling rules and allocate the inventory. What is meant by allocation of inventory? So allocation of inventory is nothing but out of the 10 quantity which is present in warehouse 3, they will put the two quantity or three quantity, whatever you have ordered for your order. That means that you are kind of reserving that quantity for your order in order to fulfill your order. So out of the five warehouses, sourcing rule has suggested warehouse three. And in the warehouse three, whatever the quantity the customer has requested for, it will be allocated to your order. So today we are going to see all the factors, what all will be considered whenever the allocation of inventory is happening. So that is called as scheduling rules. So whatever we have seen yesterday is allocation of warehouse or ship node, or I can say uh, best match of ship node in order to process your order. Like yesterday, the sourcing rules were present under distributed order management. The same way, scheduling rules will also will be present under distribution order management. And this even scheduling rules you should have as part of your and organization level. So I'm just going to matrix. Under cross application, you have order promising. Here you have sourcing and scheduling. So here you have scheduling rules. Scheduling rules is something like which you can have at the organization level as we just discussed. So you can have multiple scheduling rules and you can use any particular scheduling rule while processing the order. So coming to the scheduling rules, we will see in detail each one of this, what it is and all. There might be some configurations people don't even use, and there might be some configurations people regularly use. We'll try to discuss on most of the things which will be used regularly. So in order to create a new scheduling rule, it's as simple as you just come to this particular scheduling rule configuration, just click on this plus mark, it will give you whatever all the configurations, excuse me, whatever the configurations that are present in this particular scheduling rule, and you can define whatever the rule has to follow. So first thing, let us go back to whatever we have already created. First thing is retry interval. What is meant by retry interval? You have placed an order for so and so quantity, and if the inventory is not available in any of the warehouse based on your sourcing rule. So if the inventory is not available, what will happen to the order? Like yesterday we have seen, there was one order which was going to back ordered status. What is meant by back order? Back order is nothing but there is no inventory for that particular item. So maybe we may get the inventory after a couple of hours or couple of what do you call after a couple of days, whatever it is. So in order to have the order processed, we can retry scheduling because whenever the order is in back order, if you retry again, the scheduling transaction will pick that particular order and it will try to process. So here they are asking us after how many hours you want to retry. So if you see here, the first thing is if the product is back ordered, retry scheduling after the number of hours. So what is meant by product is back ordered? So as we discussed earlier, we can have multiple different kinds of items like product and delivery services and provided services. So what is meant by provided services and delivery services? Like we have already discussed yesterday, whenever we were discussing on the sourcing rule, provided services or delivery services is nothing but there is no physical product for that particular item. Instead, we will have a service like kind of an installation, cleaning service, for plumbing service, electrician. All those kind of services are called as provided services. And what is meant by delivery service? Delivery service is nothing but like you kind of a rapido. Like Rapido uses delivery services or Porter. I guess you might be aware of Porter, where you can book any auto or a bike or anything where you can send some goods to so and so address. So those things comes under provided services or delivery services. So what they are telling here, if the product is back order, retry scheduling after these many hours. So you can configure here 5 hours, 10 hours, or you can even configure zero point 0.5 hours and all stuff. So whatever the time you are configuring here, that will be the number of hours it will retry afterwards. This is for product. If it is failing for provided services or delivery services, you can retry after these many hours. And if the scheduling is failing for any other reason, then you can use these many hours for products. So this is just a configuration which will help the agent to retry. Is that clear?
Yes,
Okay.
good.
Yeah. And coming to the constraints, like this particular question will be present in almost all the interviews. What are the constraints available in the scheduling rules? So if you see, we have ship complete, line ship complete, ship from single node, and line ship from single node. So what is meant by ship complete? What is meant by line ship complete? You have placed an order for, let us assume, item 1 10 quantity and item 2 10 quantity. So ship complete is nothing but whenever you have this particular ship complete configuration, you can see by default line ship complete is also getting enabled. So you can see that, right? Or you can have line ship complete separately. So first let us talk about ship complete. Ship complete is nothing but unless you have all the inventory, don't ship the product or don't ship the order. Like for example, we have only 9 quantities here. We have the entire 10 quantities here. Even though you have one quantity less also, don't ship the order. Unless and until you are shipping the entire order, don't ship it. That is for ship complete. What is meant by line ship complete? Line ship complete is nothing but if, for example, in the earlier case, we have 9 here and we have 10 here. So this particular line can be shipped completely. This particular line is not having complete inventory. So if the configuration is only for line ship complete, then you can ship this particular item because that is a complete line you are shipping. Okay. And one more thing is ship from single node or line ship from single node. For example, you have the inventory of item 1 in warehouse 1 and you have the inventory of item 2 in warehouse 2. Sometimes I always take the example of Nike shoes and Adidas shoes. You place an order with Nike and Adidas together in Amazon, but you may get them on different days. Like today I may get Nike and after a day or 2 days I may get Adidas or the vice versa. So how that works? Like for example, if you are going for line ship from single node. So here what is happening? This particular inventory is present in warehouse 2. This particular inventory is present in warehouse 1. So the entire line can be shipped from a single node, right? Like this particular entire item can be shipped from the single node. For example, you ordered for 10 quantity. In warehouse 2, you have only 5. Okay. And in warehouse 3, you have the remaining 5. In this kind of situation, you cannot ship it because it is line ship complete. Unless and until one line is shipping completely from a single node, you cannot ship it. And ship from single node is you have to have the entire inventory in one single node. Okay, so those are the constraints. And now the question may arise, how can we override or how can we avoid these kind of situations where we have five in different warehouses? So there is a concept called as procurement in Sterling order management system. So procurement is nothing but getting the inventory or procuring the inventory or fetching the inventory. So procurement, it's an English term. So procurement is nothing but like for example, you want something and you can go and procure it from so and so shop or so and so store or whatever it is. So procurement is nothing but you can get the inventory from a manufacturer directly by placing a purchase order. Like for example, here in warehouse 2, I have only 5 quantity. So what we can do, we can create a purchase order and get the inventory and process it, or you can transfer the inventory. There is one more concept called as transfer order. So you can transfer the inventory from warehouse 3 to warehouse 2, and you can process that particular order from warehouse 2. So that will help for line ship complete. And if you want the entire inventory to be shipped from a single ship node, that is ship complete from single node, or we can say ship from single node. So in this particular case, you can have transfer of inventory from warehouse 3 to warehouse 1, warehouse 2 to warehouse 1. Like for example, yesterday whenever you are configuring that particular sourcing rule, we have seen something like whenever we are configuring the one second whenever we are configuring the sourcing rule, here you can see procure or transfer to this node when inventory is not available. So you can choose this particular option, and there are certain other configurations also which you have to do under procurement. Once that is done, you should see the inventory being procured or transferred from one warehouse to other warehouse, and you can process your order based on the scheduling rule constraints. Any doubt on these two, retry intervals and constraints?
Noted.
Okay, great. Now coming to the inventory controls. So first thing is consider unplanned inventory after exhausting all sourcing options, whether it is always or only during inquiry. Two things are there. What are they saying? Consider unplanned inventory after exhausting all sourcing options. So what is meant by considering unplanned inventory? Like for example, you are having some inventory which is coming in future, or some inventory which you may get in future. So whenever the sourcing is trying to process an order, should we consider that particular inventory or not? And in which all places we should consider. So whenever you are choosing it as always, it will consider in all the places. Whenever you are choosing only during inquiry, so anytime you place an order in any website, whenever you are trying to place an order, that particular website will make a call to Sterling order management system in order to check whether there is inventory available or not, because they should not be seeing a surprise after the order is placed in Sterling order management system that there is no inventory and order is getting back ordered. So they don't want to see such kind of circumstances. So they will make a find inventory call. It's an API call. Find inventory is an API which is provided by Sterling order management system. So any website where they are placing an order, it will invoke find inventory API and get the inventory picture. So whenever you are choosing only during inquiry, That is, whenever the find inventory call is happening, they will consider this unplanned inventory. Otherwise, they will not consider this unplanned inventory during the process of an order. So that is what the configuration unplanned inventory, what you call considering unplanned inventory after exhausting when to consider and all stuff. So there is something called as apply on-hand safety factor to on-hand inventory, apply future safety factor to future inventory. So what is meant by this safety factor? So let us assume you have a store, okay, and you also accept online orders and offline orders. So whenever somebody is placing online orders, it can be like you deliver it to their home or you will ask them to come and pick it up. It can be any kind of thing. But every single day you will have some people coming or walking into the store. They want to buy offline. I mean, like for example, you have a mobile store where you accept online orders for Apple iPhone, and it's not that you have 10 quantity and all the 10 quantity you are selling in the online. Then people who are walking into the store for offline purchases, you will not have enough quantity for them. And what you will do, whenever they come, you will always keep on telling that no inventory, no stock, no stock, no stock. So in order to avoid these kind of situations where you don't want to tell to the customer who is walking into the store that there is no inventory, you can use this particular on hand safety factor. So what is meant by on hand safety factor? I can have some safety factor percentage of 10% or 10 quantity. So if you guys remember, we were doing this configuration of percentage or quantity in the item level. Like you guys remember, one day we were discussing about all the item attributes at that particular in that particular discussion. There was one particular configuration to provide the percentage of on hand safety factor or the quantity of on hand safety factor. So if you are giving 10% of on-hand safety factor, if you have 100 quantity in your system, out of 100, 10 quantity will be on-hand safety factor, so that those 10 quantity will not be sold as online orders. So that is how you can maintain at least a minimal, bare minimal quantity in the store so that you can satisfy the customers who are walking into the store. So whenever the scheduling is happening, should you consider that on-hand safety factor or not? If you are considering the on-hand safety factor, it will calculate the inventory picture only for the rest over 90% of the inventory. Else, if you are not considering, it will try to process the order by considering all the 100 percentage of inventory. The same applies for both on hand and future. So that is what considering the safety factor to on hand or future inventory. And there is an option called as cancel order for inventory shortage. Like yesterday, we have seen our order going to back order status whenever there is no inventory. But there are certain projects where they want the cancellation to happen. Like whenever there is no inventory, just straight away cancel the order. And if there is any requirement, they would place a new order. Any doubts on this particular inventory controls?
Okay.
No, Pradeep.
And one more thing is like this particular scheduling rules, right? Unless and until you are joining a new project, and that is the time when they are implementing the customer from scratch, you will not be able to use these scheduling rules in your project. I mean to say, it's only one time activity. Whenever the customer is getting onboarded, that is the only time you configure scheduling rules. Once customer is starts processing the orders and all, then like there will be no much changes in the scheduling rules thing. Yeah. Second thing, so the next thing is lead time. Maximum number of days orders can be shipped or delivered beyond its requested date. So, okay, we will go one by one. First thing. So, whenever you are placing an order, as part of our order line, there will be an attribute called as requested ship date. Like, for example, we can go to our Java docs. We have something called as create order. So, in create order input XML, input XML, you have something called as requested requested ship by date, right? So you can see the requested date is there many places, or there is something called as ship by date. Yeah, there is something called as ship by date. So maximum number of days order can be shipped beyond its requested date. Like for example, whenever the order is getting placed in Sterling order management system, there will be something called as a requested ship by date. If the requested ship by date is, let us assume February 2nd. So sometimes even after February 2nd also we will not have enough inventory, and like it's not that we will be able to fulfill the order based on the request from the customer. Not always we can fulfill the order based on the request from the customer. There might be a delay sometimes. So after how many days you can fulfill? Like for example, if you configure here as 5 days, so if the requested ship date is February 2nd, at least by February 7th, you should be able to fulfill the order. And why are we considering that here in the scheduling rules? Because scheduling and sourcing will know when the inventory will be available. Like for example, if there is no on-hand inventory, so we cannot fulfill the order right away. So what they will do, they will come, they in the sense the scheduling rules, scheduling transaction will come and check whether we can wait beyond the requested ship date. If we can wait beyond the requested ship date, what is the number of days we can wait? If the requested ship date is February 2nd, if the number of the days you are configuring here is 5, you can wait till February 7th. So if there is any inventory which is coming to the particular warehouse before February 7th, it will try to process your order. If there is no inventory which is coming before February 7th, then it would back order your order. That is the maximum number of days order can be shipped or delivered beyond its requested date. Maximum number of days order can be scheduled before its ship days. Like for example, you have an order placed just today. Today is February 8th, but you can schedule your order something like after 10 days or 15 days. Like for example, on February 18th, we have got the requested ship date. So if you start scheduling today itself, what happens? It will consume the inventory, and however, you are not going to ship the order today because the requested ship date is February 18th. So in order to avoid these situations of allocating the inventory upfront, because if you allocate the inventory today, if there are any other orders which are coming and if they are having requested ship date before February 18th, those orders may get back ordered. So in order to avoid that, you can use this configuration. If I give 2 days, then before 2 days of its ship by date, the order will get scheduled. So that within that 2 days, they should be able to process the order to release, pick, pack, ship, and all other stuff. So the next thing is maximum number of days to search for service availability. Service is whatever the provided services or delivery services. If you are trying to search, so basically it is a find inventory call only here. So many a times what happens if you're trying to search these kind of services, you may not get it on the time. I mean, like for example, today I want some service. If I try to search, they will say that all the delivery partners or all the service partners are not available till February 10th. So if you want to book a slot, you can book from February 11th. So those kind of things will be visible. So here they are asking maximum number of days to search for a service availability. So if you give here 7 days, so it will try to find the service availability within that particular 7 days whenever somebody is trying to search for a service. Any doubts on this particular lead time?
No.
Okay. So on this reservation, like I have never seen what is meant by this reserved build out of ratio, but on if we have to talk about this ignore fill quantity or ship complete, there is some concept called as reservation in sterling. Whenever you are placing an order in any website, as I just mentioned, we will making a call to find inventory call. At the same time, there is something called as reservation can also be done. What is meant by reservation? So ideally, what is happening? You are placing the order. After order coming to Sterling, you are trying to find the suitable warehouse, and after finding the suitable warehouse, you are trying to allocate the inventory. So, if for example you placed an order today, and meanwhile many other customers are placing orders, in those kind of situations, what may happen whenever you are placing the order, there might be inventory, but by the time your order reaches the scheduling part of it, the inventory might be used by any other customer or any other order. So we may have certain prime customers, or I can say priority customers, who don't want their orders to be back ordered. In those kind of situations, whenever we are placing an order, we can make a call to Sterling order management system called as reservation. So, like how you do reserve in any like movie tickets, flight tickets, bus tickets, train tickets, here also it is more or less the same. So, whenever you are making a call to Sterling order management system called as reservation, uh, what you call that? Sterling would send back a reservation ID to the website wherever you are trying to place the order by mentioning that your reservation is successful. So, for that particular reservation ID, the inventory will be allocated. Like, for example, I am a priority customer. I am trying to place the order now. So, before even my order is placed, my reservation will be done. So, whenever I am placing the order, I will use the reservation ID so that the inventory is already allocated for me based on my reservation ID, and I can use that particular reservation ID to process my order. In this case, the inventory will not be allocated to any other customer or any other order. So my order for the priority customers will never go to back order. So there are certain concepts or certain things you can do the reservation even during scheduling. So what is the point of doing the reservation during scheduling? So whatever the concept we have spoke till now, it is during the order placement that is done at the website level. So we know that scheduling is nothing but inventory allocation. Then what is the point of doing a reservation during scheduling? So there is one more level of inventory allocation called as a release. So scheduling is called as soft allocation and release is called as hard allocation. So what is meant by soft allocation and hard allocation? Soft allocation is nothing but you are allocating the inventory softly to that particular order. What I mean by softly is, if some priority customer comes or if there are certain some circumstances where you have to allocate the inventory or reallocate the inventory to any other order, you can do it because it is softly allocated. What is meant by hard allocation? Hard allocation is nothing but the inventory is allocated to you. You can't revert it, change it, or modify it. So that's why, in order to have the scheduling also as an hardly allocated thing, you can use this particular allow reservation during schedule. So whenever you are allowing the reservation during schedule, that means that you have got the inventory allocated to you permanently. There is no modification that can be done if you allow the reservation during schedule. Any doubt here, guys? So, like I was mentioning about ignore fill quantity or ship complete, right? So basically, like if you are doing the allow reservation, right? If you are going to talk about this example where you have only nine quantity, and if you are choosing ship complete here, okay, what should happen? It should not process your order. But if you are using this ship ignore ship complete, then if you are using what you call this allow reservation, then even though you have less quantity, it will try to process because whenever you are sorry because whenever you are using reservation, right, it will automatically ignore the ship complete. It will just process whatever we have. Okay, is that clear, guys, on the lead time and reservation?
Yes, bro.
Yeah. So on this priority, like it is the English, simple English only says that consider distance between ship to and ship from location for prioritization. If you want to go with the distance, and what is the weightage you want to give, like if you want to give more weightage for distance or more weightage for the node, you can choose whichever the weightage you want to give. The higher the weightage, the more the priority. So what is meant by weightage given of distance, weightage given to node? Like you want to consider distance as your primary factor of scheduling, or you want to what you call consider warehouse? Because for example, you are processing an order and you have got sourcing options. Like for example, you can source from warehouse 1 and warehouse 2. Warehouse 1 is having more quantity, warehouse 2 is having less quantity, and warehouse 1 is very far and warehouse 2 is very near. But if you are giving weightage to distance here, automatically it will pick the inventory from warehouse 2. If you are giving the weightage to warehouse, then it will go for that particular ship. So it's not only this particular configuration will help in identifying the right warehouse and based on the distance, there are certain other things also we have to do in Sterling. Like we have to implement some user exit called as get sourcing correction user exit, get sourcing options user exit. So there are many other things like or factors which are responsible to consider a warehouse or ship node based on the distance. So that is on this particular priority and optimization. So this thing is also not independent. It is also dependent on many other things. Like you want to optimize the order processing based on the date, priority, or cost or number of shipments. So if you want to prioritize an order based on the date, you can use date or like priority or cost or number of shipments. Like for example, you want to uh, like play as I was taking the example of Nike and Adidas, it is coming as two different shipments. So in order to avoid that, you can use this option. So what happens is it will not come as two shipments because whenever you are giving it as two different shipments, it will cost the shipping cost will be more. So in order to avoid that, you can use this optimization so that what happens is until the Adidas shoes which is coming late, right? That is not coming to inventory, the Nike will not be processed. So they will try to process both together so that the optimization of cost and number of shipments can be done. And there are other more additional optimization, like you can combine shipments in 2 days of inventory interval. Like for example, I give 2 days here, so Pawan has placed two orders, and or Pawan has placed only one order with two items. If for suppose he has to get one item today and one item day after tomorrow, so they will not fulfill the item which is coming today. They will wait until day after tomorrow, because you are optimizing to combine the number of shipments. So what happens is, you are giving the interval as 2 days. So whenever the shipment is trying to process today, it will wait until day after tomorrow, because the window is for 2 days. So that particular configuration can be used here. And you can see the other things: delay shipment against current inventory to be consolidated with shipments against future inventory, delay procurement to be consolidated with the shipments against future inventory. Like if there are any shipments which are shipping in future for your order, you can delay allocating the current inventory, and you can allocate accordingly for the future shipments. And if you are having any procurement, you can also delay that. So that's pretty much. But yeah, guys, like maybe these things are very in detail. Like I have not seen anyone using these particular optimizations or this backward compatibility control and other rules and all stuff. But yeah, these are pretty much. And if you guys want to understand more about the scheduling rules, you can always go to Sterling Order Management System knowledge center. So if you just search like this, you can have this defining scheduling rules and all, right. So IBM documentation will give definition of each and every what you call, like if you are going to creating a scheduling rule, so they give each and everything. Like I mean, constraints, what is meant by ship complete. Check this box to ensure that all product lines in the promising inquiry request are either completely scheduled or not scheduled at all. If you are giving line ship complete, lines could be sourced from different note, like everything. Like you can see each and everything is written here, like what is meant by assuming backward compatibility and delay procurement to be consolidated, like everything. So if you need more details, I will try to share this URL right away in the chat so that you guys can go through this. And if you have any more doubts on this, we can discuss more. Okay. So that's pretty much on the scheduling rules, guys. And as I mentioned, it will be a one-time activity, but it's just that you should understand what is meant by scheduling and what is meant by scheduling rules in order to understand how the orders are getting processed in any project or any implementation. Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes, Prit.
Ah, sure. I'll do that post the call. Yeah. So the next thing today we are going to cover is on the inventory synchronization, or I can say inventory load. Okay, let us talk about those things today. So what is meant by inventory load or inventory sync? Inventory load or inventory synchronization. So in order to load the inventory, we have already seen there is a concept called as adjust inventory, and we can create a asynchronous service which will consume the messages by the integration server, and it will invoke the adjust inventory API, and it will process the required adjust inventory XMLs whatever we are getting. For example, adjust inventory, as I mentioned, it is a simpler process, and it is like not mostly used because it is one-time activity. Adjust inventory API is basically what it is doing. If you are giving a here adjustment, it will adjust. If you are giving absolute, it is changing absolute value. In order to avoid that, And in order to have a proper inventory load or a proper inventory synchronization, Sterling Order Management System has provided two APIs for this. One is load inventory mismatch, and the other one is mismatch, and the other one is sync loaded inventory. Okay, please be a little concentrating, guys, because this is something I have seen many projects using it, and there are many interview questions around this. So, what is meant by load inventory mismatch and what is meant by sync loaded inventory? So, whenever you are trying to do an inventory load or inventory synchronization, you can send. Okay, let us take an example and come to the details of or technical details. As we seen earlier, like for example, I have a client who is having 100 stores or warehouses, and he or like they have some 1,000 items. So as we discussed earlier, 1,000 items in 100 stores will be 1 lakh of XMLs. So in order to have this much big, huge inventory picture sent to Sterling Order Management System every single day, to adjust the inventory is a big job. And also adjust inventory is something, it will adjust the entire inventory picture. But when you come to this particular new concept of load inventory or sync load inventory, they will try to compare whatever the external system is having and whatever the Sterling order management system is having. So whenever you are trying, okay, we all know that we have inventory in YFS inventory supply table. So what does this load inventory mismatch and sync loaded inventory will do? Let us see that. So load inventory mismatch, whenever you are invoking this API, okay, whenever we are invoking this API with any input or like XML input to this particular API, it will insert the inventory records into YFS inventory supply temp table. Okay, there is a temporary table called as YFS inventory supply temp table. And for example, I have 100 warehouses. So I'll have 100 XMLs. Okay, like each warehouse one XML I'll try to process, and each XML will have 1,000 items. Like for example, warehouse one, I'm having item one 10 quantity, item two 10 quantity, item three 20 quantity. Likewise, I'll have warehouse two. Okay, I'll have one more XML for warehouse 2. That item 1 10 quantity, item 3 20 quantity. Likewise, I'll have until warehouse 100, I'll have 100 XMLs. So what we can do is every day or once in a month or whatever it is, we can ask the customer to process these 100 messages to Sterling Order Management System. And once these messages come to Sterling, we will invoke this load inventory mismatch API. So whenever this load inventory mismatch API is invoked, all this data will be stored in one table called as inventory supply temp table. Once the customer is done sending all the 100 messages, he will send one message called as EOF message. That is nothing but end of file message. So whenever the customer is sending end of file message, that means that they are done with sending all the 100 warehouses XMLs. And once they invoke this particular or once they send this particular end of file message, we will invoke the next API called as sync loaded inventory. So what is this sync loaded inventory API will do? This particular API will try to compare the inventory present in our YFS inventory supply table and supply temp table. This temp table will have all the information of this 100 warehouses, and YFS inventory supply table will have the inventory picture which is already present in Sterling order management system. For example, in supply temp table, they have item 1 as 10. Okay. In our Sterling order management system, we have item 1 as only 8 quantity. So, whatever the difference quantity, that is 2 quantity, that will be added here and it will become 10. Okay, so it is basically comparing the inventory picture present in Sterling inventory system and the inventory system of the client. Like as we discussed earlier, every client or organization will have their own inventory system, and every single day the inventory picture changes in our system as well as in their system. So in order to have a synchronization between their system and our system, we will use this process called as inventory load or inventory synchronization, which is provided by Sterling order management system to sync the inventory. And in order to sync the inventory, they have provided two different APIs. One is load inventory mismatch, and the second one is sync loaded inventory. What is load inventory mismatch? Load inventory mismatch is an API which will consume all the messages that are sent by the external system and store those messages or inventory information into YFS inventory supply temp table. Okay. And once all the messages are received and processed by load inventory mismatch API, we will be getting an end of file message mentioning that this particular group of XMLs is done. Once the end of file message is received by Sterling order management system, we will be invoking sync loaded inventory. And once the sync loaded inventory API is invoked, we would be comparing. I mean, like, not we, the sync loaded inventory API will compare the inventory in YFS inventory supply temp table and YFS inventory supply table, and they will try to do the modification in YFS supply table. That is YFS inventory supply table. So now let us try to, okay, before I jump into the demo or like showcasing how it works, any doubts on this?
No, brother.
Okay, great. So let us try to see the load inventory mismatch table. So in API. So load inventory mismatch API is used for inserting the inventory supply information into YFS inventory supply temp table to be processed by sync loaded inventory API during the inventory synchronization process. Note, if the same inventory supply already exists for the same Yantra group ID in supply temp table, it will not be inserted. Like for example, by mistake also, if they try to send the same XML again and again, it will not be inserted into YFS inventory supply temp table. And here also it clearly says that the supply information will be inserted into supply temp table, and that will be processed by another API called as sync loaded inventory. And what is sync loaded inventory? Sync loaded inventory API is used for comparing and applying the differences between the inventory supply information in YFS inventory supply table and the inventory supply kept within the system, which stores in inventory supply table. Okay, so let us try to see what is the sample load inventory mismatch. The sample XML looks something like this. Yeah, something like this is the sample XML looks like. We will try to, okay, first of all, let us try to create some 4 5 items, and let us try to what you call process inventory for those items, because if we are using the existing items, like, it will get confused. So I'll just use some 6 or 7 items, and let us try to process it. I'll just take 4. So I'm creating 4 items. Let me try to make it as a test sync 1, test sync 2, test sync 3, and test sync 4. Let us try to create these 4 items. So in order to create an item, what is the API I have to invoke? Anyone?
Manage item.
It is manage item API. So I'll be invoking manage item. So manage item API. So now the items are created. Let's start from YFS item where item ID is equal to like test sync. So we can see 4 items are created. And let me open some document which I have the XMLs already ready. Okay, so this is the XML what we have. So this is a sample XML of load inventory mismatch API. So I'll show you guys. So now the items are created. So if you see our load inventory mismatch API, what it is having items, item, and its supplies, right? So the same way items, item, and its supplies. So this is just a sample XML for the load inventory mismatch API. So here we have 4 items, and let us create 2 XMLs, like for matrix warehouse 1 and matrix warehouse 2. I'll create 2 different XMLs. So you can have some Yantra message group ID. So this is the group ID what they were mentioning when we are talking, right? Like if the same inventory supply already exists for the same Yantra message group ID, it will not insert. So based on this particular attribute only, it will decide whether the XML is already processed or not. So I'll just have something like inventory load, maybe Feb batch 1. Okay, something like this we will have it. So one, Feb batch 1. So now we have item 1, 2, 3 items we have. Let us have one more item, and I'll have my item IDs as testing 1, testing 2, testing 3, and testing 4. So I'm having in matrix warehouse 1, I'm increasing 5 quantity for one item, 15 quantity for second item, 30 quantity for third item, 30 quantity for fourth item. So likewise, I can have the inventory in one more warehouse, right? So I'll have matrix warehouse 2. Okay. And let us give some random numbers here. So I'll just give 6, 16, 36, 39. Okay. So I'm going to process for 4 items in 2 different warehouses. I'm going to use load inventory mismatch. So, how are the customer going to send this information? Obviously, they are going to push it into a JMS queue. We are going to have an asynchronous service. We are going to consume the message and we are going to invoke load inventory mismatch API. So, I have already created a service for that. I'll just show you guys. So, under application platform, so you can go to process modeling, and this inventory is not related to any order process, right? So I just kept it under general. So under general, if you go to services, you have something called as inventory. So here I have created this asynchronous service which will consume the message from the queue and it will invoke load inventory mismatch API. And in order to publish the message into this particular queue, I have created this load inventory mismatch drop. So this particular service will help in dropping the message into the queue. And if you see here, there is one more small change with respect to this particular service configuration is you can see there is something called as service to execute on end of file message. So whenever you are getting the end of file message, what is the service you want to invoke? So I have given the sync loaded inventory service. Let me, I guess it is already present here. Yeah. So this is the service we are invoking, and it is internally invoking our sync loaded inventory API. So now what happens whenever the customer is sending multiple messages like this, all the messages will be dropped into the queue. Okay, all the messages will be dropped into the queue, and those messages will be consumed by this particular asynchronous service, and it will be invoking this load inventory mismatch API. And once they are invoking this load inventory mismatch API, it will be inserting the inventory supply records into YFS inventory supply temp table. And once the supply temp table is inserted, then we will have some end of file message. Sorry. Then we will have some end of file message, something like this. Whenever this end of file message is sent, what happens? We are having some configuration here. If it is an end of file message, we are invoking another API called as sync loaded inventory. And whenever this another API is getting invoked, it will compare the inventory between YFS inventory supply and YFS inventory supply temp table, and it will apply the differences. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, bro.
Yeah. So now I'm going to process these messages. So in order to process what I should do, I should be dropping them into the queue. In order to drop into the queue, I have created this synchronous service, load inventory mismatch drop. So I've sent one, I'm sending one more. Okay. Ideally, what should happen in select star from YFS
Temporary.
inventory supply temp table, the record should be there, right? So, okay, I'll just take only records of today where supply temp, sorry, inventory supply temp, inventory supply temp key greater than today's date. What is today's date? 2024 0208. So ideally, what should happen? The record should be present here. But as of now, the records are not present because we have to run the server, right? If the server is not running, the messages are still in the queue only. So once you run this server, the server will consume the messages and it will invoke our load inventory mismatch. My server name is inventory mismatch. So let me try to start the server. COMS bin cmd. So it is start integration server.cmd and my server name is inventory mismatch. So I'm starting the server. So we can see all the services are successfully started. Let me go and check the FS inventory supply temp table. You can see I have 8 records for item 1241 matrix warehouse 1 and matrix warehouse 2. You can see matrix warehouse 1 and matrix warehouse 2. Right. So let me try to insert one more, like because they are telling right, it will not insert. So I'm trying to insert one more. Let us see what happens. So my server is already running, so it should have processed it. So you can see it is not inserting any more records. But for example, I'm changing the warehouse, like I'll just give as mtrx store 2. Okay, I'm just giving say different warehouse. So let us see what happens. So the minute I give some different warehouse, you can see it got inserted. So you got it right. Like whenever the same warehouse XML is sent multiple times, also, if we are sending the same Yantra message group ID, it will not get inserted. Okay. So now we have 3 warehouses or 2 warehouses and 1 store, and we have the required quantity. And let us see if we have any supply in the inventory supply table. IFS select start from IFS inventory. Cha- inventory supply where inventory item key in select item where item ID like this is our item ID. This is our item ID like. So I'm just checking if there is any other inventory already present in the system. It is not there because we have created the items just now. So now let us try to send the end of file message. What is meant by this end of file message? As we already discussed, end of file message is nothing but we are mentioning that this particular batch is completed. Okay. So now let me try to put this message into the same queue. So ideally what should happen once this particular end of file message is consumed, it should invoke this particular sync loaded inventory. And once the sync loaded inventory API is invoked, it will compare the inventory picture between inventory supply and inventory supply temp table, and it should include the inventory. So I have sent it. Let us see if the inventory has got increased. It has not got increased. Did had any issues? And of file batch 567. This is older one. Actually, this always will have the problem. Still local. Hmm. Okay, what is the problem? It is not telling anything. Anyway, what I'll do for now, I'll just directly invoke the sync loaded inventory in order to not waste time. So with the same input, I'll directly invoke sync loaded inventory. So ideally, what should happen whenever it sees this end of file message, system would directly invoke that, but it is not invoking. So I am invoking the sync loaded inventory directly. Ship node is mandatory. Is that
I think
so?
multiple messages we can add, right?
I don't think so, but let us see that. So I'm just sending for one warehouse. I'm invoking sync loaded inventory. So let us see what has happened. So only one warehouse has come. And likewise, I guess, okay, now I make it makes sense. So maybe this warehouse, for each warehouse, you have to get the end of file message. So now I have sent for two. I'm sending for the store as well. So now in inventory supply table, all the records should be present. You can see all the inventory information is present here for the all the warehouse warehouse 1 2 store, warehouse 1 2 store, warehouse 1 2 store, and warehouse 1 2 store for different item IDs. Okay, so this is how the inventory synchronization happens between the two systems, the client system and our system. So now the inventory supply temp is processed. So what should happen? These records should get deleted, right? Because it is already processed. Tomorrow we may get new inventory picture, but these records will not be deleted automatically. You need to have something called as a purge process. So there is something called as purge inventory supply temp table. So this particular transaction or this particular agent has to run, and once this agent runs, automatically it will purge all the records. For example, let me start that agent OMS bin. So agent server cmd. So there is something called as S capital T capital P capital supply temp purge. So I'm starting that agent. So actually, I'm not sure, guys, if you are aware of something called as purge. Purge is nothing but a process in Sterling order management system which will help us in removing or deleting the unwanted data. It can be order data, shipment data, or any kind of data. So whichever you are no longer needed, you can enable purge on that particular data, and you can delete that particular data. So now I guess it is done. You can see the supply temp table is free now. Okay, so any doubts on this, guys, like whatever we have discussed? So I'll share this particular simple document which we have prepared on creating items and creating the load inventory mismatch drop service, and we have also consume service invoking load inventory mismatch API. We have given a sample XML what you can use, and we have also given a sample end of file message. And once the inventory is done, like you should be able to see this status of end of file message in PLT OS status table, and the purge related thing. The inventory supply temp table will not remove the records after process. You have to enable this particular purge. So how that can be triggered and all stuff we have given here. So I'll share this particular document with you guys. You guys can go through that, and yeah, we can discuss more if you guys have any doubts. So any doubts so far, guys?
No, Pradeep.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. We'll connect back tomorrow. We will discuss on something called as RTAM. RTAM is real time availability monitor, and we will see how it goes. And Pawan, you were mentioning some null pointer exception. We can check on it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Feel free to drop off, guys. I guess it's already late, but yeah, if you want to stay back, you can stay back.
I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Let's start.
So you are doing that. Which one? Deletion of orders which are in draft status, huh?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, you can click anything. It will directly come. You can click on any active kite. You can search for task queue here. Yeah, search for task queue. Enter. Yeah. Yeah, this one. Read more. Click.
Yeah, this one I have tried.
Mm-hmm. Show me the error directly. Maybe null pointer exception is something very generic.
Okay, I have downloaded the logs also. Let me show.
Okay.
So do we have to mark it as task here? Here it is showing, right? If we select this now and if we add it to the pipeline, then it will become a task based agent. And another way is like we are calling manage task API, right? Here they have not shown to mark that to select this checkbox.
No, no, that should be selected actually.
Okay, okay. Anyways, that's server
That's a
is
different thing. Yeah,
speaking,
yeah.
yeah, server is speaking message.
Mhm. Okay, if server is speaking message, then well and good. Show me the logs directly. You can see
Yeah,
it.
here.
No, 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 no. We need the error message. It is an inbox message.
So this is the message, input message actually.
No, this is okay. Task queue input message. Okay.
Then it is throwing this error, right?
Okay. 1 second. So delete draft order dot Java in line number 18. Yeah, can you go to that dot Java in Eclipse?
This
So in line number 18, ATP input delete order input. Okay, go back to the error once. Can you scroll up? Can we see the input? Input.
this is
Uh, okay, go back to your Java code. Are you getting the order header key? Are you getting the diff key? Delete. You just copy pasted it or you have?
no, no. I have tried this. I think same code only, right? No, no.
Yeah, that's what. This looks correct only, but I'm just thinking, is there any other place we have? Oh, yeah, go to the error, man. Let us see the error only. This seems correct only for me. Yeah, one second, one second, one second. This is lambda pointer exception. There is draft order, execute task, line number 18. Please task as try to scroll still down. Is there anything, any other error? Nothing. Still down, still down. Yeah, still down, still down. Okay, you are getting correct only. Java code now. Java code, please.
Okay.
Here also you're taking D capital only. Indoc dot get document element dot get attribute. That is correct only. And what's the you are importing that also. Now still scroll down. You're getting the instance. You are returning the API. You are invoking API dot delete order. For delete order, you are setting the environment variable and delete order input. Delete order input. You are getting the order action is equal to delete. Not sure, Pawan. Not sure. Everything looks correct only. Let me see if I have implemented these. I have not implemented. Sorry, Pawan. I'm not sure. What
Okay.
I'll do, I'll try to implement that today and I'll see if what is the error.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, sorry, Pawan. Like I'm getting a little late.
Yeah.
I
No.
have
No.
my next call in half an hour, so I have to do brush, have my breakfast, and we will
Actually,
check on it. Don't worry, we will check on it. We will have it fixed. But yesterday it was great that you only found the issue and try to fix it. But
yeah.
today it seems to be
I have compared the schedule transaction here, right?
document whatever we have given.
No, in the DB, I have
Okay, compare. Okay, you are trying to compare the records in database
yeah both that
schedule
transaction,
and
both transaction.
created EX transaction.
Yeah, there I have found that time triggered that uh, column
This
there,
one.
right? There it is no and it is by here.
Oh,
That's,
okay.
that's why I just checked to that.
Great, great, Pawan. Yeah, yeah, sure. I'll check on this, Pawan, today. Okay.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone. Anyone else have anything or sure. Abhishek, you
No,
have
Pradeep.
anything? Okay. Great, guys. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, everyone.